Hello and welcome to On the Ledge, the 300th episode. I'm your host, Jane Perrone, and this is not only the 300th episode, it's also the first in the Late Night On the Ledge series. What does that mean? Well, it's a bit like a late night talk show, so excellent guests, fun conversations, and maybe a little bit of bad language. So if you have children listening, maybe pick another episode. Today I'm joined by two wonderful guests and friends of the show, Sarah Gerrard-Jones, aka The Plant Rescuer, and T. Francis, aka T's Jungle. We're here to spill the plant tea with Sarah and T. I cannot wait. But before we get started, we've got to have a shout out to our sponsors for this week's show, Ladybird Plant Care, which is a Brighton-based business run by the wonderful Tessa Cobley, and she's a wealth of information about plant pests and the best way to tackle them, whether that's your houseplant collection, your veg patch, or your garden. And it's all about using good bugs to save your plants from pests. So if you're battling fungus gnats, slugs, thrips, vine weevil, or any other plant eaters, introducing their natural predator supplied by Ladybird Plant Care, of course, will soon send them packing. So thanks so much to Tessa for sponsoring the show. And if you want to find out more about Ladybird Plant Care, visit ladybird.plantcare.co.uk. And thank you, Tessa, for all your support. And if you want to hear more from Tessa, you can hear her in episodes 176 and 177 of On the Ledge, where we talk about biological controls. Right, on with the chat, guys. Thank you so much for joining me, Sarah and T. Lovely to have you both here. I need to give you a bit more of a fulsome introduction. Sarah, you're known for your wonderful work teaching us all how to rescue houseplants, from your book, The Plant Rescuer, and your Plant Rescue box scheme, to your appearances on Gardener's World and Alan Titchmarsh's Gardening Club. Afterwards, I need to find out what Alan's really like. But you also run Green Rooms Market with the wonderful Ian Morrison of Liquid Gold Leaf. So you're a busy lady. Now, T, you're the woman at the microscope, as I like to think of you, for these Green Rooms Market events. You're a houseplant collector extraordinaire. And you've also featured on the show before in the very hairy, scary 268 episode, which was all about spiders. Love that episode. You also, I mean, we might not get onto this, but I want to talk to you about taxidermy too, and your art. And you're just a woman with many strings to your bow. So let's get into it. It's exciting to be not in my scummy office and to be here in the beautiful
this is fancy, isn't it?
top studios in
good,
Hertfordshire. Yeah. It's very swish. And we've brought along some plants to set the vibe, of course. So it's been 7.5 years since I started On the Ledge, 300 episodes ago, February 2017.
Yeah, you must be exhausted.
I'm really fucking tired. Yeah, let's get some swearing in there from the start.
We've had a Jane you've never seen before.
Now we've had quite a lot happen. Quite a lot's happened in the last few years. We've had a global pandemic, Brexit. Trump's been and gone. He's possibly coming back again. We're on our 5th Prime Minister here in the UK. But let's put all that aside, because that's quite frankly not
a shit show.
That's a shit show. Yeah. We want to talk about what's happened in the world of houseplants and what's changed for the better, for the worse, over the past 7 or so years since On the Ledge hit the airwaves. We can't look away, really, can we, from the fact that the pandemic had this massive impact?
No, definitely not.
On houseplants, because I saw that in my show. But
yeah.
What did it mean for you?
I'd always had a lot of plants in my house. It just kind of meant that it had become more acceptable to add more. So the people I was living with, like, okay, well, every single available space is already taken with plants. So how are you going to do that? And I'm like, where there's a will, there's a way. If I want more, I will get more and I will fit them in somehow. And I think because so many people were spending so much more time at home and wanted to feel better about being at home and have a nicer space, having plants around does that. And when you're home with them more and you're able to see how they're doing, you're able to take better care of them because you can see what's happening. If you're out in an office all day, every day, you don't necessarily pay much attention to what they're doing. But when you're at home with them, watching them grow, you take better care of them. And also you get that kind of that boost of happiness from just seeing them thrive under your care. Do you know what I mean? So it was a sort of a mental health thing for a lot of people to kind of help with their overall mood. But yeah, for me personally, it was just a neatly packaged excuse to get a whole load more.
And I can confirm that you have got so many plants. I mean,
You know,
I
it's
don't know how
hilarious going to her house. You've been right.
I've
Because you
been.
pull up and there's all these clean windows and then you can see T's bedroom in the top corner. Again. Yeah, that's where she lives.
it's quite impressive how many plants you've packed into that
I'd
space.
say it's almost unhinged.
It is unhinged. Everything about me is fully unhinged.
Yeah, we'll get more into this as we go on. But I mean, you're right. It was, and I always sort of look. I mean, as somebody who's been growing plants since I was like 5, I feel sometimes very old when people are like, "Yeah, I've been into houseplants since 2020," and you're thinking, I'm really pleased for you. That's really, really great. But
that was
I
like
feel
10 minutes ago.
Yeah, like it feels
I'm
like
the OG.
really.
Yeah.
If it feels, and I guess for me that's part of the delight is seeing new people come along, because that's what it's all about, right? It's very exciting. But you do sometimes see those people in the honeymoon period and think you've no idea what's coming with that two leaf cutting, and it's going to all go a bit crazy. I mean, Sarah, you can't talk. Your house is overrun with plants.
It used to be, I think. I think back when the pandemic happened, I think it was quite unhinged like yours. But I think I've gone past that now, and I think I've thinned out, and I've just got more plants that I love rather than more plants. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I want to see the ones that are really beautiful rather than
No.
just
I'm not
hidden.
having this. I've been in your house recently. It is still unhinged.
Is
You've
it?
still got, yes. Yeah, like if you sit at
feel
your
like it's
dining
there. I feel
table,
like
there's a
it's
good
there.
chance you're going to get stabbed in the head by a yucca.
That is true.
There's cacti behind where I usually sit. So if
Maybe I've just got more
I'm
clever
quite
about where I put
clumsy. If I
them.
topple out of a seat, like I'm standing up with spikes stuck in me everywhere because there are cacti all over the place. And then there's the whole situation with your greenhouse.
Yeah,
So your
okay,
greenhouse has all those
maybe,
beautiful cacti
I've
in
put
it.
them outside,
but if the
basically.
temperature drops to a certain level, you have to bring them all into the house. So when we come from spring, like winter into spring,
True.
and
Winter
the temperature's
is
up and down, you get all
unhinged.
excited because you're like, oh, they can go outside now. And then you're
that's
like,
true.
T, I can't believe it's going to be sub-zero again. They've all got to come back inside. And there's hundreds of them. So
And
please.
Well, surely also while like the cacti are outside, that leaves extra space that could be filled.
This
And
is the
is.
problem. So when the cacti go out to the greenhouse, then I go, oh, it looks really bare in the house. Fill it with more plants. Come winter, I'm like, shit. Done it again. I never learn from my mistakes.
Yeah, but I do know what you mean though about becoming more mature in your sort of collecting habit. In that, I sort of sometimes look at a plant and go, there is nothing about you that I like.
Yeah.
Why have I still got you? Why am I still taking care of you when actually you're giving me, I'm getting nothing out of it.
back.
I can
Yeah.
find another home for you, for somebody who would really appreciate you. And I guess that's what happened
this
to
is
most.
like all of my previous relationships.
This is how you evaluate things, right? And
Yeah,
for
are
me,
you bringing me joy? No, out.
No. I mean, this is why the only fern that I have is that one up there, because ferns I love looking at other people's ferns, but do I want to have them in my house? Do they fit my style of care?
I might have something in the works that's going to change your opinion on that.
Ooh, okay.
This
Yeah.
is an exclusive.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear about it. Let's try to convince me.
Okay,
Go on.
so I'm working with a partner on a project at the moment for a planter concept. It started out as a really simple idea for like a window box designed for like apartment life, to make things look really nice, aesthetic, streamlined. So if you've got a lot of plant pots and you just want them to look neat and tidy, he had this idea for this planter that would have like a hidden drip tray underneath, and it was real simple, you know. But then of course he showed it to me and I was like, yeah, but what if it had a reservoir underneath, and what if it was, you know, somewhat self-sustaining, and what if let's put a terrarium top on it. Okay, yeah, so now it's got like all these various different things. I refer to myself as a Swiss Army human because I do all these different things. This is kind of like a Swiss Army planter, so it has all of these different things. Like it's got a ventilation system, it's got a lighting system, it's
beautiful
absolutely
really
stunning
beautiful
to look
looking.
at.
Is it about the
But-
look of that table?
The one we've made, but we're going to be looking at all different sizes and different like configurations.
slick.
It sounds like a game changer.
It's really, really cool.
And anyway, you can grow ferns in it.
Yeah, well, this is what I've been testing it with. So I've put a whole bunch of stuff in there and ferns, because I have a love-hate relationship with ferns insofar that I absolutely love them, but they don't particularly appreciate my ADHD tendency to forget they exist if I'm not looking at them. So I put a bunch of ferns in this thing, and my God, they are flourishing.
Wow.
Like, and I don't mean just like looking nice. I mean like full on flourishing. The growth is insane because the conditions inside it are stable. So there's no fluctuations in humidity. There's no fluctuations in like moisture in the soil. It's all level where they want it. So we're going to be making a few more sort of different size shape prototype things soon. And what I want for myself particularly is one that I can have a gigantic maiden's hair fern in, because they are my absolute favourites, and I've killed every single one I've ever had.
Say, I've got a maidenhair right now, and it's doing great.
Yeah, yours looks
Under
amazing, and
a grow light.
There's always one, isn't
I
there?
know. I'm actually offended by that.
No, but wait. This is because it's under a grow light, and you wouldn't necessarily think that it's going to do well under a grow light.
They
it's
do.
Doing fantastic.
For me, it's always been moisture, the problem with moisture.
Yes,
but like
moisture.
your maidenhair fern is beautiful, and it offends me. Like I'm upset about
that.
it. So
How do you keep it moist? That's not a phrase.
I don't want to.
That's my major issue, that I just let these things dry out too far because of my cactus brain.
This system that we have, you'll know at a glance if there's enough moisture in there.
Okay.
And it's so easy to maintain it and to keep it.
Is there a working title for this thing? Is it like,
It's actually got my name on it, but it's
full name.
My actual full name that I shall reveal at a later date.
Well, I mean, you're going to have to keep us posted on this.
Yeah, definitely.
It's very exciting. I can't wait.
I've got some. Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing. It's such a beautiful thing.
Well, let's stop plugging all your products and get back to the question at hand.
I can't even sit here and try and sell it to you yet because it's not ready.
I mean, but I'm sure there's going to be listeners who want to hear more about this because it sounds very exciting. And I think this is a good thing because so many of these products that are sold to us for houseplant stuff aren't actually that houseplant suitable. Like lots of things are designed by people who don't really grow houseplants, and you're like, oh, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you've done all the right things to get this working.
It's going to be very versatile. So anything from like cacti and succulents to carnivorous plants could potentially be grown in this thing.
Carnivorous plants on your windowsill.
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
The idea is to keep it as low maintenance as possible, and to try and sort of take a lot of the guesswork out of plant keeping. So.
Well, let me steer you back onto this question.
Sorry.
Good things, bad things. I mean, I'm going to say that one of the bad things has been the whole rare plant thing. I don't know. I'm going to catch some flack for this, but I just found that whole chopping and propping, buying things for £1,000 and like flipping them, just really. That's not what houseplants are about for me, but I can understand, well, hey, we're in late stage capitalism, it's going to happen. But I found that unedifying. And I'm glad it's kind of over.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the potential in it because at the end of the day, when there's super rare plants coming into the market, it's always going to be the people with loads of money who want to brag about it, who are going to get them in and be like, oh, I've got a Monstera species, blah, 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 blah. Nobody else has got one. I was like, okay, well, cool. You're going to chop and prop it and sell cuttings for a few £1,000s or whatever. And more people, it's going to trickle down and eventually it will reach us. And if we are just happy to have that plant, regardless of bragging rights, it'll get to us eventually. But what I really had a problem with was anyone who claimed that they were a fucking investment. I'm sorry, but nothing that devalues at that rate is an investment. That's like
a really poor investment.
That's like me saying that, I'm planning on going out and buying myself a 1980s BMW soon, and that's going to be a solid investment. Yeah, it would be if I've got the money to put into it and make it absolutely amazing. But no, it's going to be a money pit. It's going to be a fucking disaster. And I know that, for me, it's something else. But telling people that it's an investment, telling people that it's a good idea, telling people that it's a wise way to spend your money is like disingenuous.
And I think it's a bit of a pyramid scheme. Say that word again. Pyramid scheme vibe, in that maybe there are a few people at the very top who are making some money, but then it's all the people below who fell prey to that. That then, and also I just look at these plants and think, well, they're not really like the definition of rare. We could go onto for days, but I kind of feel like a lot of those plants, if you really look at it, is it any better than a standard devil? There's nothing to it. It seemed like a bit of a pyramid scheme to me. And if you love those beautiful plants, I mean, I've got rare plants which are worth like £5.
Yeah.
But they are,
and
that's so
by that
true.
definition, they're rare because they're hard to get hold of.
Rarity is subjective as well.
Yeah.
It's all down to the market trends and all the rest of it. If I can do what I usually do and steer the conversation towards spiders for a moment. When I first started keeping tarantulas, when I was 17, 18, my first spider was a Chilean rose. And it was the same kind of spider you'd see in any pet shop you went into that had exotic pets. It would always be Chilean rose, and you'd be able to pick up a mature female for like £15 and nobody bat an eyelid. They kind of disappeared from the hobby because people thought they were boring. Nobody was really breeding them. They were focusing on other things. Then laws came in South America regarding the export of these animals. And all of a sudden, you can't find a Chilean rose anymore. And then the next thing you know, they do show up again because a couple of people have bred them and like they've had a couple of egg sacs and they're selling spiderlings that are like a centimetre leg span for like 80, 90 quid. And you don't know if that's going to end up being a male or a female, which hugely influences the price when they reach maturity. And all of this stuff. So what was the staple, the most common, the spider plant of the spider world back then is now, for a period of time was like gold dust and became extremely rare because people lost interest in it. So they weren't propagating it anymore, So if people take a certain type of plant for granted and stop growing it and they're not really that bothered anymore, you may find that 10 years from now you want to find yourself, I don't know, a Hoya carnosa. That's never going to happen because they live forever. But like you take my example, like something that right now is pretty commonplace, you might not be able to find it.
And it's like what happened with the Christmas cactus, isn't it? Mm-hmm. They are rare.
There you go.
To
Good
get
example.
a proper Christmas cactus now is difficult unless you buy one off Facebook Marketplace or someone gives you a propagation of an old one. So you're so right about that.
Yeah, I guess, I just try to be driven by what I actually like as opposed to what I'm being told to like, which I guess is... But that gets us neatly on to the next question. I mean, we need to start getting a little bit petty here, throwing some shade. I want to talk about the things you hate about the houseplant world. It can be irrational, trifling, something that gets your goat. And I'm going to start with one word, Kokodama.
Why does it get your goat?
I've seen beautiful ones. If you're like an actual Japanese person and you've chosen the plant very, very carefully and you've got all the care knowledge, then maybe it's a good idea. But it's one of these things where it's like you just can't, there's things being Kokodama that shouldn't be Kokodama.
No, I totally agree with you on that.
It's like going into a Cajun restaurant anywhere other than, the Cajun parts of Louisiana. You're not going to get the genuine experience. It's not going to be right. It's not going to be right. Yeah. And I don't know, I was saying earlier about hanging plants also, that I think the care of plants that are hanging is more difficult just because they're harder to access. I don't know. Am I alone in this?
I think that's
I think you're
really
onto
right.
something.
Because I think I've seen succulents Kokodama.
You have.
And that's so wrong.
Yeah, you have.
That's put moss on the outside, which needs a lot of moisture. And that plant that you've planted in it needs very little.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah, it's not.
Also, in garden centres are always hanging up now, aren't they, with various massive plants in them. And you think, well, the roots are just about to pop out the bottom there. You're right. It's not how it was meant to be.
Yeah, I'm
and
sure
it's become mainstream and wrong. Yeah.
Kokodama, or there's something in that. But for me, it's one of those trends that isn't really applicable to the way most people grow plants.
Dare I say, it's a spot of cultural appropriation.
Well, indeed. I mean, I guess this is the world of gardening writ large, isn't it? There's so many things that fit that category. But yeah, I just feel like you're setting people up for failure with those.
True.
Yeah, I think so. I think
and a lot of the terrariums you see as well that have got wrong things in them.
Yeah.
Again, like succulents in a closed terrarium. No.
Bonsai trees. Why would you put a bonsai tree inside a terrarium? I mean,
this is the thing. I love terrariums, but I'm not detail orientated, sadly, when it comes to visuals. And so any terrarium I'm going to make is going to look disastrous. There's not going to be this. I don't
believe that. I think you can make a great terrarium.
Trust me. I think you're overestimating my skills.
Jane to make a terrarium.
You're coming to our next terrarium workshop.
My terrarium consists of a fish tank with a grow light in it with loads of pots of propagations. That's my idea of what a terrarium is to me. Like the propagations, the things that need to be. It's not a sec. In fact, when I have it, webcam on, I have to turn the light off on my terrarium because
it's embarrassing.
It's a shit show. It's like a load of crispy, half-dead things or things that are just recovering. Or
don't you want to make one? Is a no. I think within me, I've got a real childlike thing of wanting to make a mini world, and you don't.
Yeah, no, I like looking at them, and I probably would like to create it, but then I don't want to. Like, it's also dust. Like, it just feels like it's just going to collect dust, and
I find them. I'm moving more towards terrariums now than I am bigger houseplants because I'm spending more time out from my house than I was before. So, whereas I had a huge, great big collection of different aroids in my bedroom. Now I'm not there to sort of be doing what I need to do, make sure I'm wiping them down regularly for spider mites or do, you know, all of this. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, you know, I've moved more towards terrariums because I find them easier to dust than like a lot of those large leaf plants because it's literally just one surface instead of every single leaf.
Yeah, true.
You know, and also it's an enclosed environment, so I don't have to worry so much about pests. And I don't know. I just find that low maintenance thing much more appealing.
Sold me. Okay, I'll have one.
Yeah.
Can we go back to what we hate? Can I please say that I hate flowers stuck on cacti.
Oh,
I hate spray painted plants, and I really hate misinformation on labels. They're my 3 massive bugbears.
Can I casually throw in there novelty pots, including boob pots?
Boob pots are the worst.
I was in a cafe with my son the other day, who's 14, and he just looked over my shoulder and he went, "What is that?" And they were selling boob pots. And I was trying to explain to him, like, he's like, "Why would you want to put that on a pot?" I'm like, I don't know.
Who doesn't want a pair of tits on their plant?
But wait, I've seen the next level from this. I've seen a pissing pot.
What?
Out of a...
Yes, I've seen that. Yes.
What the hell?
Penis
I'm
pot.
sorry.
Penis pot. Yeah, that
What?
exists. So you pour the water in, the water comes out of the penis.
I mean, nothing against the human frame, nothing against the human body. I love to celebrate the human body, but I just don't want it on a plant pot.
Yeah, but I mean, there is a time and a place.
Yeah.
I mean, what the no, I'm sorry, that's blown my mind clean out of my skull. What the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. And I can't even remember what happens. Like, is it to drain it? I can't remember.
I mean, it could be quite handy. The excess water's draining away.
Out.
You're not
but it doesn't need to drain out of a dick. Jesus Christ.
It's mad. I'll send one to you. It's mad.
No,
it's
please
mad.
don't. I don't think I need to
I'll
see
get
it.
one for your Christmas.
That's your Christmas present sorted, you two.
And yours is a big one.
So going back to the labels, though, yes, annoying labels.
Annoying labels.
Foliage plants.
Again, setting us up for failure.
Deliberately ambiguous and
symbols that relate to outdoors.
It's like half a sun, 3 water drops, a pot halfway onto a shelf, and I don't know, like some weird alchemical symbol thrown in there for good measure for you to try and figure out.
And off you go. Off you go. Go
Good
and use
luck.
that. Yeah. Keep your plant alive. Yeah, it really pisses me off. Really pisses me off.
And also, can I just also say here, I have a little personal pet hate of wrongly labelled plants. Like there's a whole thing of this particular plant, there's a primulina being labelled as a streptocarpus, and oh my God, that boils my piss so badly. Streptocarpus pretty turtle is what it's sold as.
Oh yeah, I know the one.
And I have to say, if anyone's selling that with that name, I'm such an annoying pedant, but I have to just send them a DM or go in there and go, just look, that's not a streptocarpus.
Wow, I didn't know.
Please.
Okay.
It's Primulina dryas, some kind of cultivar thereof. And it just disappoints me.
Just send the same message to every single one of them. I'll be like, hi there, quick question. Do you enjoy being objectively wrong?
I mean, yes, that's one way of handling it.
But why do you think it happens? Why do you think?
Because in lots of these big production nurseries, they're not that bothered about that. Like, they're not me. They're not really bothered about which Gesneriad they're dealing with, and it's just a name. And I think they think that Streptocarpus is probably slightly better known. Like, who's heard of a Primulina? Who even knows what that is? It's going to get too confusing. People are going to think it's a primula or something else, so they go with Streptocarpus.
Yeah, and like you say, foliage plant. What the hell's that?
Foliage.
You may as well not bother.
Foliage mix. Oh, okay, cool.
Also, your foliage plant is going to be foliage now, but might flower. So then it's a flowering plant, is it? I'm not sure. Anyway, just why bother even printing those labels?
it's just
I
a
really hate
massive
it.
waste, isn't it?
And the thing is that then people will go and Google that to try and find out what it is. And then you get into a whole other situation of people trying to find correct houseplant care information on the internet. Yes, it's there, but you have to wade through a mire of unchecked and unmoderated information and opinion pieces. People who've written something for the sake of writing something that's just complete nonsense.
Are you talking about my book right now?
No. No, I'm talking about like, you know, websites that, I don't know, I can't think of any examples off the top of my head now, but
AI's probably written it. That's
the thing now. Yeah. But even before AI was sort of being used more sort of frequently, you'd have these like lifestyle websites that might have like a houseplant article on it or something, and whoever's written it, you can look them up. There's no other houseplant content come from that person. They've literally just been chucked a project by their editor and be like, write something, write this. And then, okay, I'll write an article about ferns. And so they'll write an article about ferns. And because it's on a relatively well-known website, or a website who pays a lot of money for good SEO and therefore shows up at the top of a search, you know, people are going to think, oh, well, if it's on the first page of Google, it must be right. Oh, well, if it's written by somebody on this website, then it must be right. And more often than not, it's nonsense. And actually, you know, not mentioning any names, but some of the more prominent figures on like television programs about gardening have been giving some information recently about houseplant care that's just flat out nonsense.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Nonsense. And I'm just like, well, hang on a minute. Now that's gone out on the BBC. So anyone who sees or hears that is going to think, well, if the BBC said it's okay, then it must be right. And so now all of us lot who are trying to sort of gently educate people about what the science behind these things actually is, have now been, you know, it's like take 2 steps or 15 steps back because old matey boys said, yeah, spray your houseplants a couple times a day, it'll be fine, great humidity.
Oh, are we talking about Monty Don?
Yes, I'm so glad you said his name. I didn't have to.
It's all right. I mean, he, like, probably Monty Don's got time to mist his maidenhair fern. I think he said something about misting his maidenhair fern 6 times a day or something like that. And I just thought, not relatable for most of us.
No. And
I mean, you know, like I know lots of people, I know gunning for Monty Don's probably not very popular because he's like, but you know, outdoor gardening wise, I've got no issues. But misting plants, telling people to mist their plants, I think it's just a recipe for damaged soft furnishings.
Exactly. You can tell people to mist their plants, but tell them to mist them for the right reasons, you know. It's not going to raise ambient humidity by 1 iota for any more than a split second, but it will help you with things like wiping down your leaves or, you know, pest management or something.
Most people know why they're misting their plant. They just think, I have to mist my plant.
Because they bought one of those like expensive misters.
Yeah, well,
in the garden centre.
Yeah, because it was right next to the houseplant. So if it's there next to the baby bio and the rest of it, then you must have to have
Although,
that.
have you ever bought one of those misters that's ever actually worked?
No.
Like they break after about 2 seconds. Those things are just the most annoying. Not fit for purpose. So the misters are out. Yeah. I just bought myself a massive 5-litre pump sprayer.
I love those.
Absolute game changer. I've got one already. I had one, but which I've had for about 5 years, but that had broken, and I bought another one, and I researched it quite carefully, and it's very sturdy. Oh, and it's great.
For any of the listeners that we may have just given whiplash by saying misting plants is absolute bullshit, but I've got this really great misting bottle. Shall we maybe explain what we use it for?
So this it's like a big vessel with a pump action thing that you pressure up. So you pressurize the vessel, and then you've got a lance, and then it's basically, I use it for watering. I use it for spraying down plants. So this morning, some of the plants here like that, those snake plants were really dusty, so I took them outside and just sprayed the whole plant down with that. So it's like showering them down, watering, applying. You might, if you're applying maybe SB plant invigorator or some kind of plants foliar feed, they're really great for that kind of thing. That's what I use them for. I don't spray on water to create some kind of false idea.
You even did a test on it, didn't you? I think you did an episode where you tested out the tray underneath your plant pot.
Yeah, maybe I did. I think you did. Digging back into the archives of my brain.
She's done this because people think they're raising the humidity by misting around their plant, and you actually did a test. And you're like, it doesn't.
No, and I think also, I mean, even like pebble trays underneath doesn't make a massive amount of difference either. There's not a great deal you can do. But what I've kind of realised, I think, is that actually there's it's more to do with, for me, is moisture in the air is less vital than making sure the root environment is at the right level of moisture.
You can usually acclimate a lot of plants that in nature require sort of higher ambient humidity to sort of regular room conditions. I mean, obviously there are exceptions, some more sensitive, some of the rarer plants. But, you can acclimate most of them to room conditions with just sort of careful, gentle, introduction. But no, I mean, I have pump spray bottles as well. I love them, but I'm never going to tell somebody to get one of those to humidify their plants. It's not going to work. Even humidifiers, like the actual machines that humidify your room. I tried it for a while. I had a humidifier in my room. There were a couple of occasions where I had one that wasn't automated, and I put it on. I'd be like, right, I'll leave that on for a couple of minutes. And then I fucked off and done something else for 3 hours and come back and my room's a literal cloud. I can't see I'm not joking.
That would be me. That would be so me.
I've got photos. I couldn't see the back wall of my bedroom. I walked in there and it was like I just stepped off the plane into Florida, and it's like humidity has hit me like a slap in the face. And I'm like, well, this isn't good because I've got a shit ton of stuff in here that's going to go mouldy if this keeps up. So having a humidifier in your room to get, to elevate the ambient humidity for houseplants is not a good idea from a sort of health and well-being perspective. We don't keep our homes humid like that for ourselves. It's better to acclimate your plants to your ambient humidity in your house as it is, rather than try. Well, that's why I like terrariums, because if you've got plants that really don't want to acclimate to drier conditions, then you keep them in a handy-dandy sealed little glass box and you can look at it doing really well in there. But
absolutely.
No, the pump spray things I like for, things like Liquid Gold Leaf's product, Photo Plus, that's a good one. If you've got plants in sort of darker areas or variegated plants, anything that needs a bit of a boost of photosynthetic activity within itself, Photo Plus is a good one. So I use my spray bottles for applying that. But also, like you said, with your snake plants and stuff, just for drenching them. I'll put mine in the bath and drench them with a thing to wash the dust off and to, blast away any little spider mites or thrips or anything like that.
There's nothing more depressing than a dusty house plant.
Oh, I know.
It's like a dusty...
No, there's a dusty fake house plant.
Right, Leah, let's get on to this. Let's get on to this because do you have something here that you want to show us? Oh, look at it. It's so beautiful, though. What is it meant to be? Is it meant to be a fern?
I don't even know what that's meant to be. It looks a little bit like a Hoya.
I've heard this story multiple times, though, about people who have literally had a plastic plant that they've been watering and taking care of for months before they realise that it's actually plastic, which is
But seriously,
quite
is
disturbing.
there anything more depressing? Honestly.
I mean, in the defence, I never thought I'd be defending a plastic plant. In defence of that particular one, that's actually quite good, relative to the usual look. That's actually not too bad.
Cover that in a layer of dust. That is going to look like shit.
No, I'm not saying that I want one at all. But my attitude is always with plastic plants is if you've got an area where you can't have real plants, then have an artwork, have a sculpture, have something else.
Foliage. Is it care instructions?
What is on the label? Yeah.
It's a barcode. If that had care instructions on it,
I'm 100% with you. Why have a plastic plant when you could have a ceramic?
Yes,
something or
a
other.
beautiful piece of pottery or something.
Which taxidermy?
Taxidermy.
Yeah, well, okay, maybe not for some people. I mean,
but I just think it makes me just think humans are so weird. That's what it makes me think. I mean, yeah.
So we were talking about dust. There's quite a lot of dust on that bad boy. I've just cleaned the sofa. So
that could also benefit from the pump sprayer.
I think this is a downside of houseplants becoming more mainstream.
Yes.
And I see them chucked out as well. I see them chucked away in skips, and then I just think, wow,
that's never going anywhere. That's the other depressing thing, isn't it? Plastic is never going anywhere. That's going to be here at the end of time.
And also they bleach and then they start looking really weird. I've seen somebody that's got fake window box stuff that's bleached and it looks horrific.
Fake hedges. You can get whole hedges.
Horrific.
Oh my God, those bloody awful balls, the spheres of flowers. Yeah. And they're so lightweight that whenever there's a breeze, it's like swinging around violently on the front of your house.
You're not fooling anybody with your balls.
No, your balls are fake.
Put your balls away.
Your blue balls.
Yes.
Because they turn blue.
Put your balls away. Wrong. Yeah. It's true though, they do.
Anyway, we'll hide that.
Yeah, let's hide it away. Well, we're moving on now. We're talking about a subject that I love to get into, which is plants I hate. this is a question that I ask listeners on the Meet the Listener slot. Plants that you can't get along with. We call it the plantagonist. I'm going to come right out and say, if the plant that I simply wish would fuck off and not come back is Ficus lyrata, unless the fiddle leaf fig is actually growing as a tree in Africa. That's
or in
allowed.
a very specific house in North London.
Or maybe in Florida in front of a massive like floor length ceiling window. I mean, I just don't like the leaves. I just don't like the leaves.
I hate the ones that are just like one stem with like a bunch of way oversized paddles like sticking off it. And I'm like,
it's not a vibe, is it?
Is that supposed to look nice? Because it doesn't.
And there's fake ones of those as well, which are so depressing. Because if you hate that plant and then you see it's fake as well.
And I also think it's not the best
whammy.
of the ficus. Like there's other nicer ficus that you can have.
It's such a diverse genus. I don't think a lot of people realise that there are so many different types. But yeah, I mean, if you want a tree type ficus, there are some really beautiful ones that are just so much nicer to look at than the lyrata. And it's not just the leaves either. I find that the caterpillars that the leaves come out of when they go all crispy and brown and they're still they just look really messy. Yeah. But then I find a lot of begonias do that too. And I quite like a begonia.
Leading on to begonias, that's my one.
Okay.
I love begonias. Like, I've got two here. Let me show you. I got these from my friend Mo, and looking beautiful, right? Don't you think?
Yes.
But for no reason, it will just start to melt. Yeah. Like, I'll get to a certain point with all of them, and I'll go, look at me, check me out, and my beautiful begonias. And then I'll go, for fuck's sake, you're doing it again. I've got two here, both from Mo.
Mo, it's not your fault.
No, it's not your fault. I love you, Mo, and these are so beautiful. But can you see, it's been going great guns, and now it's dropping these leaves here, and I'm like, why? I've not done anything to you apart from give you everything that you could possibly want.
There's only a few begonias that I've found that don't do that, and they are beefsteak begonia. Immaculata, the cane begonias, but beefsteak begonia and Thurstonii are two really good classic heritage begonias that have been around since 1820 something. And those two are really good.
They're tough.
I find they are super tough. They've got really good chonky stems and they just keep going.
I like my terrarium begonias.
Yeah, I mean, put them in a terrarium. I think that's...
But saying that, I mean, I think it was last year I had a whole load of begonias on my bathroom windowsill and they looked fucking stunning. I had maculata, I had tamaya, I had luxurians, I had fuchsioides, I had...
She's just throwing out the begonia names here.
I had all these, you know, and I took a group shot of them. It's on my Instagram somewhere. And it's like this beautiful begonia forest. And every single one of those motherfuckers was just like, oh, you're enjoying this, are you?
Yeah.
Well, hey,
I'm off now.
Goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye.
You know, like
exactly.
Always take cuttings. Always take plenty of cuttings.
This is the thing. Like, I did. The only one I have left of that particular lineup is the maculata, and I'm just looking at it thinking, you're trying to die.
But that's
for
the thing about them. If you take cuttings, then you only ever have a very small plant.
Yeah.
Like, and then it gets to a certain size, and it's doing this. Why are you doing this?
Yeah, that's really annoying. I don't know. I mean, I have got to the point where I've got better at begonia care through using wick watering and just a very free draining substrate, and watering a lot, which is hard for me because that's not my vibe.
Okay, so maybe a self-watering pot is what I need to do, do you think?
I think the other thing with begonias is, I mean, consistency with soil moisture and all that kind of stuff is definitely important, but feeding is important with them too because they require regular feeding, but they can't tolerate the usual sort of levels of feed that we would give normal houseplants. So you'd have to give them a half-strength feed, but give it to them regularly. So you're basically like drip feeding them the nutrients.
Yeah.
Because they don't do so well if you dump a load in there and, you know, it sounded really wrong, but if you just, you know, if you chuck a load of like normal strength, normal dilution, like plant feed in there, they don't seem to like that. And this is why I'm leaning more towards terrariums now. So I'm not great with consistency when it comes to watering regimens and like feeding regimens and everything. It's like, if I remember, I'll do it, you know. And I think begonias, they'll do great for a while, but as soon as they get to a point where they're not getting the absolute perfect combination of moisture and like moisture retention and drainage and feed, they start doing stupid things. So
there you go. Well, I mean, I didn't know that about the feed, but that's useful to know. But yeah, they're always going to have that cycle. And I look back at photos of mine, I'm like, my Masoniana, I was like, oh, that looked amazing last summer. And now it's just like, oh, it's not so great.
I had a lovely luxurians as well. That's no more.
Luxurians is, I haven't managed to get luxurians through the winter. That's the palm looking one.
The funniest thing is when I bought mine, it was beautiful and it was doing really well. I got it from Harriet's Plants and she was like, oh, you're going to love this. You know, if you take good care of it, you'll have a tree in no time. I was like, yes, I'm going to have a tree. It's going to be great.
Nope. Was that luxurians?
Nope, the luxurians, yeah.
Really
I got it to about 3 foot tall, and then wintertime it just goes powering down.
It's
not happening.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe somebody out there's got the answer for us, but I think that's my key, and this is what I'm kind of more and more doing, is just finding those things that really, really are work for me, and just going large on those. Any other plantagonists we want to mention here, Tia?
I'm going to do this in reverse, and I'm going to tell you about one that I absolutely love now that I hated with a passion before, and that's Hoyas. I hated Hoyas.
You're speaking my language now.
I know, but listen, okay, so this is the thing, right? If you had asked me 2-3 years ago, what is your least favourite houseplant, what do you just really not get? I'd have said Hoyas. What the hell is it with Hoyas? Because I'd always see them quite sort of bushy around the pot, and then they'd send out those long runners with nothing going on. I'm like, that just looks stupid to me. It looks like a plant in reverse. All the leaves around the pot and the stems are sticking out, reaching for the sky. Like, it just looks stupid. And then a friend of mine sent me a cutting of Hoya carnosa from his grandmother's heirloom plant. And I was like, yeah, sure, okay, I'll give it a shot. And it started to send out those runners. And after a little while, they started to, like, new leaves started to grow from them. I was like, oh, okay. And it took me a while, being used to aroids and other such things, took me a little while to get used to Hoyas and, like, their growth pattern and, like, where the nodes are and what, you know, where a new shoot will come from and, like, all this kind of stuff. And so it took me a little while to get used to it. But then when I'd had that Hoya carnosa for a little while and I started seeing it growing and I was, you know, getting excited about seeing the new growth, those runners that it was sending out all of a sudden became something I was quite excited to see, and not something that was just like, what the hell? I just want to cut that off, you know? And so then I got a few more. And now I would say that Hoyas are my favourite plant that I've got. With Hoyas, terrarium begonias, and just like obscure little terrarium plants, Selaginella, of various different varieties, and just the odd little thing here and there. But Hoyas have taken over for me.
Am I allowed to have an evil laugh here at this point?
Please do.
Oh, yes, my Hoya plan is coming together. Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said. I mean, you're right. Those weird vines, and I, for me, what helped me appreciate it is realizing the purpose of that the plant's being actually really clever in putting out as an epiphyte, as a plant that's growing in a tree. It doesn't want to put resources into throwing out a load of leaves until it knows that vine is going to have somewhere to lodge. And then at that point it goes, yep, I found a spot now and I'm going to add some leaves to this whippy thing.
It's amazing.
That's pretty darn clever.
Do you know, I've got a Hoya curtisii in my IKEA cabinet that I put in there because it was doing really badly. I got it from Spiralis Plants, which was one of my favourite plant shops. I think they're out of business now, which is a real shame. But I bought this in a hanging pot, and it's got a really cute leaf shape and like lots of splash on the leaves and a really nice texture as well. So it was a really pretty little plant. And I had it hanging in my bedroom window from the curtain rail, and it was just going yellow. The stems were just going yellow, and it was really unhappy. They were just falling off. So I've got to do something to try and save it. So I put it in my greenhouse cabinet, and it's under very strong light, and it's in constant, decent humidity. It gets watered when it gets watered, and I started seeing all of these new shoots growing from it. It's like, oh, brilliant! It's happy. It's taken over now. And I didn't realise until it reached out and grabbed hold of some of the moss poles and things that were in there and started shingling up them. I didn't realise that they have this incredible growth pattern where they will flatten out their leaves on the surface of what they're growing on. And that thing is hanging on a shelf lower down in the cabinet, but it's gone all the way up the back. It's grown all the way up the sides, all to the top. It's all coming up through the shelf above it, in between all of the other plants. That thing has gone absolutely wild.
Actually, I need your advice, both of you, because you remember we picked up that really old Hoya. It's 42 years old, and it was beautiful, wasn't it? And it was on a trellis, and like you say, the leaves were all kind of flattened. But I don't have that set up, and it's just trailing off. And it's putting out the whippy things you're talking about because it's looking for something to grab. What am I going to do with it? How am I going to make it climb? It's massive.
Yeah, I mean, my big Hoyas. I mean, this is the thing with Hoyas. Like, again, you'll be aware of this, T, but you get these 2-leaf cuttings, and you think, oh yes, and you see people have them in an IKEA cabinet, and it'll be like all these little pots with 2-leaf cuttings. And as a more seasoned Hoya grower, you're sort of laughing to yourself, thinking, oh, yes, you have no idea what beast that's going to try to become. Yeah. With those bigger Hoyas, I'm not a moss pole person. I kind of hate moss poles. I don't have any moss poles in my house.
They're ugly, aren't they?
Kind of ugly. I have them growing up obelisks. So I have like garden obelisks, basically.
Okay.
Which isn't perfect, to be honest. But you can kind of like trail them round and use something to attach the
all
the
of mine are on
vines.
trellises like that. So I've shown you Lush Plant before, haven't I? Lush Plant UK on Etsy. They make 3D printed trellises and stuff. And I bought one.
Exactly what
I saw one. The first one of those that I saw was spiderweb shaped. And I was like, oh my God, I love that. So I bought one for that Carnosa. And they send them with these little heart-shaped clips so you can clip the plant to the trellis. And I mean, they're small, so it's not something that you would need
really
for
into
your
heart-shaped
no, but you know, they're the clips, you don't see them. But like, there's all these different shaped trellises. So for my smaller Hoyas, and to start them off, I love those. But for your big Carnosa, you're going to be looking at something like bamboo, like the U-shaped bamboo stake things that you can kind of twine it around.
I'd love to have it like they had it in their house because it looked so beautiful when all the leaves flatten out.
It was literally a trellis
it's like
on their wall, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's beautiful. But then those trellises that you get, garden trellises, are so ugly. I need somebody to make me a see-through plastic trellis.
It's probably going to be me,
Hands
isn't
over
it?
to Swiss Army knife lady over here.
See-through trellis that I can put on the wall that you don't even see. That's what I need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you're getting into Hoyas.
Love them.
I mean, I'm very bitter that your Curtisii is doing so well because I've had a Curtisii for 6 years and it's literally done nothing. I need to put it in a terrarium.
Jane,
clearly.
you would not believe what it's
not done a thing.
It's not sent out a single peduncle yet, so I've never seen a flower from it. But my God, it is going absolutely. If I just leave it alone, it will 100% engulf that entire cabinet. It's absolutely mad what it's doing in there. It's incredible.
Do you have an IKEA cabinet?
No.
You've got to find
again.
Is this like where you're pissed off and you're like, do you want an IKEA cabinet?
Because my begonias don't like mine.
Well, this fits into the category of I ain't got time for that. I'm at the point now where I've got a lot of plants and I'm trying to divest myself because I want to have plants that I absolutely love and enjoy, but I have too many.
To be fair, that's what the cabinet allows me to do because I don't do anything to it.
Yeah, that's the thing. And that's the thing for me is that I need to divest myself of plants that I'm not enjoying because I just...
Knowing you, I thought that might be a spider.
As if I would. I was like, there's a dead begonia leaf. I mean, you can have that back.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that would be a turn up for the books. Suddenly she flings spiders across the podcast studio at the arachnophobe. I just need to divest myself of things that I'm not... Like, I need to slightly Marie Kondo. I know she's kind of slightly changed her view.
She'd be horrified at our houses.
Yeah,
horrified.
but I just have too many things and... too many things that aren't bringing me enough pleasure, so I need to do something about that. But I mean, Sarah, this is probably a bit of a corollary of what you do, is that you rescue plants. So you end up with
really
the nature of your brand is that you're rescuing plants, Sarah. But I mean, I want to hear about
that through, did I?
No, you didn't think that through. But tell me, I need some granular detail about some of these rescues, like when it goes wrong, when it goes right, some good, some bad. Give me some stories.
Okay. Well, I have a Christmas cactus that I rescued from a house clearance. It was just advertised as, what do you call those? Is it not a jardiniere? What are those French kind of stands? Pots?
Jardiniere.
Yeah.
It was just advertised as they were selling that, but in it was this incredible Christmas cactus, true Christmas cactus, but it looked very sad. Turns out it had been in a house where somebody passed away. I went to collect it, huge, but very I hate saying the word, but flaccid. Very flaccid cladodes.
We prefer a turgid plant.
Very flaccid cladodes.
There's
Flaccid cladodes.
Oh my gosh, we're getting into.
Anyway, I gave that.
Some people pay good money for this kind of talk.
Flaccid clado content. Subscribe to my OnlyFans for more flaccid clado
Shall I do some
content.
tapping here on the microphone?
Oh my gosh,
Oh,
where are
anyway,
we
that
going?
went wrong. Okay.
Yeah, it's all right. Keep going.
So I gave it a really good trim. It flowered, amazing, looked incredible, but never really took off or looked great. And since then, I repotted it. Oh my God, thought I'd killed it. Bear in mind, this is like 30 years old.
How did you even do that?
It looked appalling after I repotted
I bet the
it.
potting mix was like a concrete.
Yeah, it was. It was literally solid. And I thought, well, I'll be doing it a great favour. It looked marvellous once I've done this. It looked like absolute shit. Thought I'd lost it. I put it outside. It started looking a bit better, but never great. It kind of looked a bit bleached outside, too much light. Then it got mealybugs.
Yay!
So that's good. For fuck's sake. I think I've got on top of the mealybugs now. And actually, people have always said, when you have a Christmas cactus and it's happy, leave it in that spot. Well, it's not been happy anywhere. So I literally put it in a room where it doesn't really get that much light. And lo and behold, it looks marvellous now. It's no longer flaccid. It's looking a lot more chunky and it's growing upwards rather than downwards. So I've been on a real journey with that plant and it's not been easy and it causes me a lot of stress. But I think we're getting there now, and now I'm going to leave it exactly where it is. And it's in a room with no other plants, so hopefully now the mealybugs have gone, I don't think it will be attacked again, fingers crossed. So
I mean, this is the point in which I get all really negative Nelly and go, but are they really gone, Sarah? Are they not just hiding, waiting to come out?
Just the fear. That's the fear that comes along with having dealt with a pest infestation like that. You're always like,
that's the really horrible thing about rescuing plants, because a lot of them are really old, and then I think they're coming to my house probably to get mealybugs and probably to look like shit.
Yeah.
But that's probably been my worst one, and most difficult one that literally requires so much investment time-wise.
But it's worth it when it flowers, though, right?
Oh, yeah, stunning. And now it's looking great. Now it's looking great, but it has taken 2 years.
But I do think that with those Christmas and Easter cacti, they often do look like shit when they're not flowering. They don't
and they look
always
like shit
look
after
great.
they flower, because it's taken so much energy, and they're like, I'm done. Just leave me to die. But no, it's looking all right now.
Oh, that's really good.
I killed mine.
Well done.
Yeah, I killed it all the way. Did
good work.
Yeah, I don't know how much. I genuinely. How did I do that? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they're not actually the easiest, I have to say. I don't think they are the easiest.
Bearing in mind that as far as plants are concerned, I cut my teeth on carnivorous plants. So everything wet, sodden, soaking, boggy all the time.
Maybe that's where you went
winter.
wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you hand me something that does not want a lot of water. I'm like, I'm sorry, this does not compute.
Yeah.
This just does not compute.
But yeah, as far as space in my house goes, it is becoming a problem, because I find it really hard to say no, especially when things like that 42-year-old Hoya that someone said, please, I really, really want you to have it. I want it to go to a good home. And I can't say no. And I think, where the hell am I going to put it? And then it becomes a bit stressful.
Part of it's in my room and it's lovely.
That's true. But I don't want to give the really special ones away. Is the problem.
No.
So I'm just going to have to move house. It's as simple as that.
Yep.
So
You're like that meme of like the tiny house with the massive greenhouse attached to it. This is my future home, you know.
Every time I see that meme, it's always like, this is my house and this is my fart room. So obviously I am on the wrong side of Instagram, aren't I? Like every time I see it, that's what that is. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
That's very strange.
Yeah, I don't know.
I definitely already need a bigger greenhouse.
Yeah.
For sure. And then they all need to come inside in winter, obviously.
I mean, how do we actually have jobs? Like, this is a full-time... I mean, this is why I'm kind of looking forward to retirement. I always think, gosh, when I'm retired, I'm just going to be in my element, just looking after plants.
Do you sometimes feel, is there any days you wake up and go, I fucking hate plants?
I
actually
have... Mealybugs have taken me to that place, yes. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think the trouble is, I mean, it's an interesting thing about... we touched on this earlier about like the whole you can't have too many plants idea, which I really object to, as I've said many times before. In that, like, you really can. And it can really turn a beautiful hobby into something quite depressing.
Oh, it turns into a chore. I set up a full-size greenhouse in my basement for my aroids because I had philodendrons in my greenhouse cabinet. Yeah, absolutely. I had philodendrons.
This is a very common story, though, isn't it? Loads of people did this.
Yeah, I mean, I had philodendrons in my greenhouse cabinet, the IKEA cabinet, that were going to outgrow that very quickly. And I thought, well, I've got things like philodendron melanochrysum in there, which I want to see really big mature leaves on. I thought, well, I'm not going to get that in my bedroom or my bathroom. So I've got space down in the basement. I'll set up one of those just cheap, like pop-up, like Wendy house type greenhouses. It was 4 by 6 foot. I think it was 4 by 6 foot or 6 by 6 foot, something like that. Big enough for me to walk into. And so I set it all up. I put a tarp down on the ground to make sure that it was moisture.
Can I just say she put this in her dad's office?
Well, no, my dad's office is in the basement. So, full disclosure, when my last relationship went to shit, I moved back in with my parents. But they've got a really nice house and a lot of space, so I ain't leaving. They're stuck with me now. I'm not going anywhere.
They're very tolerant, clearly.
Well, the thing is
Dad,
that...
can I put a greenhouse in your office? Yeah, sure, darling.
Oh, no, he was away. He came back and there was a greenhouse in there and I was like, yeah, sorry about it. But anyway, so I had a lot of stuff in there that was doing really well. But I mean, and also the good thing about having a greenhouse down there was that when I did have problems with pests in there, so like thrips or anything else, I'd get something from Tessa and I'd just wang it in there like a bomb, like Arias thrips, like the bugs that eat thrips. I'd just get a load of those, chuck it in there, shut the door, be like, right, good luck, chaps. And then I'd come back in a week and see what was going on. Nary a thrips in sight. So it was much easier to keep pests under control, but it wasn't working the way I wanted it to. And I'm trying to, I've got an expensive light in there. I've got a humidifier in there. I've got all of this stuff. I'm feeding them, liquid gold leaf. I'm feeding them. No, I was only feeding them liquid gold leaf, but I'm giving them everything that I could possibly give them. I've got these nice moist moss poles for the ones to climb up if they want it. And they're all just like, it's like they're chucking the middle finger up at me and they're like, nah, fuck you. It's not enough.
Well, at that point, this is what I kind of trying to get around to with my houseplants is that I'm kind of thinking, what was the point of that? Like,
when I see the new leaves coming through, and even with optimal humidity and good soil moisture and like root networks and everything are looking really healthy, really great, and I'm doing everything I possibly can, and those fucking leaves are still getting caught and not coming out properly, not emerging properly, I'm like, what more have I got to come down here and go full Johnny on you and start wanking it off to get it to come out of its fucking thing? Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to... Hey Johnny, how's it going? No, I'm not sure like what I'm supposed to do with that,
also,
but it takes all of the joy out of it.
What enjoyment were you getting out of it?
None.
It wasn't as an aesthetic thing. You weren't getting aesthetics out of these plants. I mean, I did a talk with a conversation with Matt Pottage, and I learned a lot from Matt Pottage in that talk. And I realised that he's very brutal. So Matt Pottage was the curator at Wisley. He's really into houseplants. He's been on the ledge before, and his attitude is, if it doesn't look amazing, it's not it's going out of my house.
This is exactly it.
And I'm starting to come round to that way of thinking.
Absolutely, 100%. So when I made the decision to dismantle that greenhouse and just sack that idea off, I felt so much better about it because, to be fair, I hadn't invested a whole lot of money into it. The greenhouse itself cost me about £40. The humidifier I already had. Most of the plants that were in there were cuttings that I'd either got from plant swaps or had taken from plants that I'd bought in a bargain section of something or other or whatever, or bought as little baby plants and grown on. So it wasn't like I'd invested a whole load of money into super rare plants or anything. I would say the most expensive plant that was in that greenhouse probably cost me about £40-50, but that was because of the size of it, not because it was anything special. So, it was a lot of propagations and stuff in there. So it just all started looking really shit, and none of it was going the way I'd wanted it to. I'd had all these ideas that, these leaves were going to grow really big and beautiful and mature because they had this lovely tropical greenhouse environment, and it was not happening like that at all. I was like, I'm not going to sit in here for the 12 to 16 hours of the day that this light is on and baby my plants through their whole existence.
Or even sit there and enjoy them. Like, you weren't sitting there and having pleasure out of them.
Imagine that, just zipping yourself into your greenhouse in your basement.
No, seriously. I did do that sometimes. I'm not going to lie. If I needed to get away from everybody, and they weren't going to come looking for me. But
I think there are a lot of second-hand plastic greenhouses and second-hand IKEA cabinets up on Facebook Marketplace right now. Because a lot of So tell me more about this. What you doesn't work for you?
No, it does. But does it work that well? I'm not sure. Yeah, I did buy it so I could have plants that require a higher humidity and bigger ones. But actually, it's got a shelf in it. They can't grow that tall. Well, the bloody begonias, you know.
It's definitely a trial and error thing, though, because mine has had so many different types of plants in it, and some have done really well for a while and then sort of dropped off because as they've gotten larger and closer to the lights, it's not been working.
That's
so it's been a lot of
once they grow too tall.
Yeah, I think it's been a lot of trial and error, but now I seem to have hit the sweet spot, and that is Hoyas. The Hoyas love it. They love it. And I'm getting blooms and I'm getting loads of new growth. And because I can choose where I put them, I'm getting a lot of like selective sun stress and stuff, you know, on certain different types. So it's just looking so lovely in there now because I've decided, right, well, Hoyas seem to like it. No, there are thrips in there. And because there's thrips in there, I have sacrificial anthuriums in there.
Oh, yeah.
So there's sacrificial anthuriums.
That's the best thing to do with it.
Yeah, no,
absolutely. Controversial view there. But...
Anthuriums can kiss my ass. So now, like, they go in the greenhouse cabinet as a sacrifice to the thrips because I can't get rid of the thrips completely.
It sounds a little bit illegal, that
there is no,
bait anthuriums, it's not very ethical, is it?
I've got an anthurium. Oh, so many people are going to want to kill me for this and I can't wait. I've got an anthurium clarinervium in there. I've got an anthurium, what's that climbing one that I got? I can't remember. Polyschistum. And then I've got an anthurium warraquianum in there and an anthurium veitchii. So I've got a king and a queen in there that I was coveting them for ages, but the thrips absolutely love them.
So they get drawn to those plants, and then at some point you just whip them out. And
no, they stay in there. They can just stay in. The thrips can have them. The thrips can have them. It's like,
but it means that thrips don't attack the other plants.
I never see thrips on. I've never seen a thrips on a Hoya. Never. I have never once seen a thrips on any of my Hoyas.
No, I've had thrips and I've never seen any of them go on Hoyas. I don't think they're interested.
I've never seen them on the begonias that are in there. I've never seen them on, what else have I got in there? I've got, oh, for goodness sake, I can't remember. I've got a couple of alocasias in there, young alocasias. I've got an alocasia mellow, an alocasia frydek, and an alocasia Sarah, Yucatan princess, whatever. And every now and then I might see one on an alocasia, but they don't do any damage to them. They're like, will not bother.
Again,
but
this is the reasons why I don't grow anthuriums.
Yeah, I mean...
Because life is too short.
Yeah,
100% agree.
Absolutely. Well, those three that are still in the cabinet are there because... there's a Jacqueline in there too. So they're all doing all right. And I don't do anything to them. I water them every now and then when I water everything else, and that's it. But this
is a healthy attitude towards pests, I think. Is that living with them, I think is...
Yeah. I don't want to be using pesticides. I don't want to be using... I can't because I've got animals in my room that pesticides will kill. I keep spiders. I keep exotic cockroaches. I keep all kinds of stuff. I've got snakes in there.
I mean, this is a whole nother podcast right here. Yeah. Well, we'll get into this in
but,
some other time.
I can't use pesticides.
Yeah, of course.
And so if I can...
plants is a new thing. I love it.
Yeah,
I mean, this is a new concept on me, but I'm here for it. It's the only reason why I'd buy an anthurium.
Just get yourself a cheap...
Are we going to get so much hate from the anthurium people?
I'll take it. Bring it on. Give me all your anthurium.
Well, I mean, what I did want to do is I wanted to put you both in a position of power. Just to imagine, just close your eyes and imagine you have been appointed the Queen / democratically elected president of houseplants.
But wait, aren't I already?
Well, yeah, you are already, obviously, Sarah. What are we going to do? What's our manifesto to change the world of indoor gardening? Like, what do we need to do to make houseplant as a hobby a better experience?
I've got something I'd like to venture forth for that one.
Does it involve anthuriums?
No, it involves Instagram.
Okay, I'm ready.
Wow.
I would like mandatory fact checking to be implemented before people start making their reels telling you to do this, that, and the other.
Wow. There's not going to be much left, though.
Well, no, but I mean,
Who's moderating all this, by the way?
Okay. You know how you have, if you're on Instagram, if you're advertising a product, you are obliged to put in your hashtags ad, to make it clear to your audience that it's a paid promotion. Well, I think that you should be made to make it abundantly clear that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about if you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I think it should be transparent. I think if you're going to go on Instagram and start telling everybody what to do and how to do it, you should put hashtag, I don't have a fucking clue what I'm talking about, if you don't have a fucking clue what you're talking about. Because people see all of this stuff, and if they see numbers and they think, oh, well, they must know what they're talking about because all these people are following them. It's like the 5-minute crafts thing, right? We've all seen 5-minute crafts and how absolutely fucking absurd they are. Well, there's a lot of crossover in the whole plant scene with 5-minute crafts. You know, it's like, here, take a banana, cram a strawberry inside it, bury it in an egg, and before you know it, you've got a lemon tree. You know what I mean? You see a lot of that. And it's just like all of this blatant misinformation, and it's I don't know what it is. Is it's click farming, or if it's
Are you talking about Sarah again now?
Yeah,
I feel a bit under attack.
All these big Instagram accounts.
If I'm honest.
No, not at all. Because I mean, it's not so much about, you know, showing people what works for you is fine, but it's these people who just are like, oh, well, I've got to post a reel today, otherwise I'm not going to get any views. So what can I do?
How about dancing with your plant?
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna make an arrangement of these fucking 15 plants that don't need anywhere near the same conditions at all. Wang them all into a plant and say, look at this beautiful thing I've made. This will last you for the rest of your life.
With plants that they've literally just bought as well is the other thing to say.
Yeah, you know.
That's one of my pet peeves is people who are like, oh yeah, look at my amazing whatever. And you're like, you've literally just come out of the nursery. Like,
yeah.
And you know, when you've had plants for a while, you realise again that actually plants that you have in any home setting, like the plants we've got here today, they don't look the same. Like there's brown tips, there's broken off bits.
Yeah, it's just to be expected. It's not going to be perfection all the time.
Exactly.
But
and
it's not.
It's different.
It's about having realistic expectations, but also I think it is just about the responsibility that I feel people should have. If they have got a large following of people, and I'm really not referring to you here, but like if you've got a large following, or if you've got a lot of people, if you're a retailer or something, and people trust you for information, then I feel that there should be some obligation on you to be giving them correct information, or at least disclaiming and saying explicitly, this is my own personal experience. I can't say for sure that it will work for you, but you know, I feel like people who sell products who don't necessarily know exactly what's in their product, but have, you know, they're like, oh, well, yep, this is what I'm selling and it works. And here are the other things I'm selling with it, and they all work together. And, you know, they might actually be put to the test, and you might find out that they are wildly sort of contradictory of one another, these things that are being sold to work together. And it's just like people are buying these things, they're spending money on things that they're being told to spend money on, or they're spending all of their time trying to make things work that they've seen on Instagram. And it's a lot of it is completely bogus.
Well, that is strand 1 of our manifesto. Sarah, what's strand 2? Well, whatever you like.
Strand 2 is, please can we stop selling calathea as houseplants?
Oh, you're really going hard on this.
I am going for it.
You're going
because
really hard.
I'm no joke here, I must get 20 messages a day in my DMs. I bought this beautiful looking plant and I don't know what's happened to it. And there comes the photo of a calathea. And then I just pull my hair out because I think these plants shouldn't really be sold as houseplants. I'm not saying all of them, because there are some species which are better than others. But the really fancy ones with beautiful leaves that people just go, oh my God, that's incredible. It really is going to last you like a bunch of flowers.
Yeah.
It's just not... When have you ever seen a 40-year-old calathea?
Well, not even botanic gardens.
And there's a reason for that.
When you go around like lovely glass houses and you see like them bedded out, like those are not old plants either. Oftentimes they're
like perennials or something. You know, there's something that look nice for a while, but don't expect long term.
And for some people that kind of probably works. Some people that's the way they buy plants. That's their thing.
And it works for a retailer because you kill it looks, and then you're going to buy another one.
Quite honestly, you walk around Kew and you look at some of the ones that are in Kew in like glass houses, they look like shit. Because they're not even there, even where they've got everything.
Why doesn't everyone have a Hoya instead?
Seriously.
I mean, I'm going to ban calathea. That's on my manifesto.
Okay, I'm loving it.
But also a little bit like what T was saying. I feel like if you're going to buy a plant, you need a license, like a driving license. You need to have done a test, a very basic test, like when you go and buy a fish. You get asked questions, and they might not allow. If they're a good retailer, they won't allow you to buy that fish. I think it should be the same for houseplants. Because why on earth?
Houseplant shops are not going to like this.
No. Well, it seems that our diplomatically elected leader is turning into a bit of a dictator now.
Well, also supermarkets, you can stop selling houseplants.
Yeah,
that's not allowed.
I think we can agree across the board.
That should not be allowed because you don't know what the fuck you're doing and you're not training people to look after them. And that is just a massive waste and that needs to stop. So that's maybe number 1 on my manifesto.
Can't agree with you more. Either train up the staff and allow them to have the time to take care of those plants and put them somewhere in the store that they can survive for a bit longer, or just don't sell them.
No, they need to be sold by proper retailers doing it right.
Yeah, and we were actually having this conversation the other day. We were in a garden centre and we were looking around, and so, yeah, why not? We were in Dobby's.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, I've never seen a mealybug problem on houseplants like we saw in there. It was absolutely unreal.
And the plants were for sale, and some poor person is going to buy that plant, not knowing what a mealybug is.
Yeah.
And
it's
not fair.
It's not good. But you know, there was a section of sale plants, and I would say 90% of what was on that sale plant section was just chronically underwatered, really dry, really sad. All it takes is a bit of water. But I was saying to Sarah, I was like, I would say that in places like that, and I don't mean Dobby's specifically because I don't know for sure, but in a lot of like plant retailers, like big chains that sell a lot of other things as well, but like garden places that have a houseplant section, I would say the actual houseplant training is probably pretty minimal. And if anyone's going to be getting it, it's probably going to be the managers. It's not going to be your average sales assistant. They're not going to be sent on a plant care intensive. You know, they're not going to be sent off to become houseplant experts, because those things are going to be designed to sell within a few days, and then if they don't sell and they start looking a bit shit, they get chucked in the bin or whatever. So, you know, we were saying about how some sort of training, some sort of resource for places that sell things like that, just as a basic, you know, everyday checklist kind of thing for people who work in houseplant section. Go and check for signs of pests. This is what you're looking for. If you find them, do this. If your plants if it's this type of plant, it needs this amount of water or this kind of light or this kind of soil, you know, basic stuff.
Actually, do you know what, Burston, our favourite?
Yeah.
They did, I loved it. They were using my book as a training manual. So if you got a job at Burston, you'd get given my book and you'd have to read it cover to cover.
I mean, there you go. That's actually what you want to say is my book goes out to everybody and you need to read it
and you get a test on it. And then you can look after the plants.
Well, we've set the world to rights, Sarah and T. It's been a delight to chat to you for this 300th episode. It's been an absolute blast. And just to remind everyone, as I always do, very boringly, but importantly, to head over to the show notes at janeperrone.com. There's links there for all kinds of stuff for these guys, and also the transcript if you want to check what T really said. And if you're new to On the Ledge, if you've just come across the podcast, that's where you can find out more about the show, how to support On the Ledge, and also listen to the 300 strong back catalogue. Thanks so much to Ladybird Plant Care for sponsoring the show, and to Uptop Studios for hosting us today. Thank you, Sarah and T, and all of you for joining us. You're all legends, and it's been a delight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.